what looks simple on the outside is not always easy to put in place on the back end.
Welcome to the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast with Mariana C. Ruiz, the podcast for the go-getter mom entrepreneur who refuses to let motherhood slow her down from achieving success and making an impact. Tune in Mondays to learn the success secrets of top influencers who also happen to be moms so that you can reach the success, freedom, and impact you desire.
This episode of the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast is brought to you by my Freedom Coaching Program. Are you serious about making a full-time living with your business? Then get ready to implement the strategies that get you real results in less time. I will support you 110% for 6 months to create a business that has real results and real profits. In just 6 months, you'll have a business that's consistently generating leads, making an impact online, and bringing in cash to not only support the business itself, but also to support your family, all from the comfort of your own home, so that you have the freedom to spend as much or as little time with your children as you want to. And not just that, I have had clients who have gone from a brand new business idea to paying clients in just 3 weeks, as well as clients who have had their first 5K month within the first month of working together. So if this sounds like something that would benefit you, head on over to marianacruiz.com and click on the Work With Me tab. There you'll find all of the information about the program, as well as a link to my scheduling app so that you can go ahead and schedule a time to see if working together would be a good fit for both of us. So head on over to marianacruiz.com and click on the Work With Me tab. Okay, now back to the show. Welcome to the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast. Today I have Sara Speicher here with me. After moving from a medieval town of 10,000 people in Europe to New York City to play NCAA Division I basketball and barely speaking English, she got her MBA degree and went on to start her own business in 2011. When she lost her job, she became very weak and she found out she was pregnant. And she is now a mom of 2 little kids, a best-selling author, a business strategist, and performance mentor for high-achieving women entrepreneurs. I can't wait to dive deeper into that story because it's going to be really, really exciting for us. So welcome, Sara. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Mariana, for having me. And hi to everyone in the audience, listeners, amazing mom entrepreneurs out there.
Thank you. Welcome. So tell us a little bit about that story. Like, how did all of this happen? How did you get into playing basketball and coming to the U.S.?
Oh, my goodness. In first grade, my dad, my uncles, they were all in karate. So I figured I'm going to be in karate too. It was not something I really enjoyed. I was really shy and reserved. So you can imagine standing in front of the audience and doing all the katas and stuff like that. I was like, that's not for me. I'm out. My mom wanted me to get out of the house regardless, because I could have sat down, reading books and playing and stuff like that for hours. Like, no, you got to get out. You got to move. Let's go. In second grade, a couple of my friends from school signed up for basketball. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I could try it. Remember when I said how I enjoyed sitting down and not running around? Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we did. It was just running, conditioning straight ahead, for 3 times a week, just running. It's like, that's no fun. I'm done. The first lesson, and probably the most important lesson that has been with me ever since then, again, my mom's wisdom, she said, you know what? You made a commitment. You will finish out this year, and then we'll talk again if you're going to continue or not. You can't just keep jumping in and out. Your team depends on you. You made a commitment. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, something shifted. I stayed. From there on, I remember like yesterday when I played my first game, how petrified I was, all the traveling and being invited to play for a national team. In 1998 was the first time I played for the national team. And from there, I went on to be a team captain of a national team at European Championship in 2002, I believe. And at the point, I wanted to finish my athletic career because I wanted to focus on academics. However, I did not anticipate an invitation to come from New York City. I had no aspirations whatsoever to go anywhere that was more than 30 minutes away from home. So when that invitation came in, I was like, who is that? I am not going overseas. No, absolutely not. Again, my parents sat me down. They said, you know what, this is a great opportunity. You put so many hours, so much effort, so much sacrificing into playing basketball. Why don't you go give it a try? You can always come back if you don't like it. Okay, I guess. By the way, I was not that kind of girl who did everything her parents asked her to do, but it's not quite right. You know, it was something wise. It's like, okay, I guess it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I am really grateful for their courage and for their trust they had in me to pretty much let me go. And when I came to New York City, I barely spoke any English. I never before visited the campus. I had no idea about the system. I had no idea, nothing. I was a newbie. I felt lost. But it was so interesting, you know, the new culture, the new system. Everything was new. Everything was so exciting. And I blended right in. The first year was amazing. It was the second year that I came back. I was really homesick. I put on weight. And I was dealing with some other issues too that were really taking focus away from basketball to the point that I nearly lost my spot on the team. And it was really a wake-up call. You know, again, you made a commitment, figure it out. You're on your own now. Parents are 4,000 miles away. Figure it out. And I did. I figured out a way to get back in shape, to get all the needed support, to get myself back together pretty much. And I decided, you know what, my coach was really big in communication, and her philosophy was lead, follow, or get out of the way. If you see me in person, I'm 6'1". I am not big of a follower. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to be a leader. So what can I do? I lead by example. What can I do to inspire my team to follow my lead? And it was just the early stages of lessons that I've learned that have served me really well now as an entrepreneur. Fast forwarding to the point where I lost my job, my husband and I just bought a house. We had 2 cars. We had 2 jobs. Life was perfect. We found out we were pregnant. The same week I got to my office, I was about to have a conversation with my boss, with my manager, to tell them that, you know, in 9 months, we'll have to figure out what we're going to do then. Well, I got to the office and all I heard was like, sorry, I don't think this is going to work. So I know you have a very similar story when you had to make the second decision of what to do next. So the same thing, my husband and I sat down, we went over the numbers, and coming from a different system, I have to be very honest, the European system is much different towards moms and families than it's here in the States.
Yes.
And I just could not see myself handing my 6-week-old baby to somebody else's care for me to commute 2.5 hours one way. I was like, there's no way. So I decided to start a business. And I know we're going to go to all the lessons learned later, but that's how it started.
Yeah. Wow. What a critical moment. And I love how you talked about your background, because I'm an immigrant too. I came with my parents from Venezuela. I really can relate to when you say like the tradition here is so different. And I can also really relate to that figuring it out mentality when you're like far away from family and you just have to keep moving forward, one foot in front of the other. So I love those lessons from your childhood and from your earlier years, because they served you so well in your business.
Absolutely. And of course, everybody has days when you just don't want to get out of bed, when you just wish that there was an easier way or simpler way. Of course, there are ups and downs to having a job. If nothing else, you know, the paycheck is coming every week, every 2 weeks. Entrepreneurship, not so much, at least until you set up all the systems for passive revenues. But before you get there, it's hustle, it's grind every day, rain or shine. You know, it doesn't matter. Your clients don't care if your kids are sick. They don't care if you're sick. You have to show up anyway, right? It's a commitment that you're making to yourself and to your family first and foremost, and then to your clients. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, I totally agree. So tell me a little bit about how being a mom has impacted you like on a day-to-day basis.
It's so interesting when I think back. I started to get familiar with the whole mom entrepreneur community when I was expecting my first child in 2011. And I really didn't have any point of reference to compare it to anything. And I just figured, no, why is everybody making such a big deal out of it? When my first daughter was born at 3 weeks, I took over presidency of a local networking chapter. So she was coming with me to those meetings every month. We grew the chapter. She was, in my arms. And I really, at that point, I thought to myself, well, why is everybody making such a big deal? It's really easy. I did not realize my baby was so easy that I could do everything with her. But when my second one was born, everything changed. The team that I've built, the successful business, lucrative business that I've built up to that point, all of a sudden felt overwhelming. It felt disconnected. It felt like something that's more of a burden than a benefit. I was battling postpartum depression. And at that point, I realized, you know what? Now I understand what they were talking about back then, about combining mothership and entrepreneurship and everything else that you have to do as a woman, as a wife, as a human being. So going back to your original question, what changed for me was I really had to become selective of where my focus is going. I got much clearer on my why, so I could tap into it and use it as the drive to get me moving forward. I learned to say no more often because I had to choose, what are the priorities? And as a result of that, it ultimately led to me letting go part of the prior business and restructuring the other part completely so it could fit better into the family dynamic and allows me to support my clients at the highest level and be there for my kids. And without them, I don't think I'd be at this point.
That is such a valuable lesson. So I don't know if that's the thing with second kids, because my second child was also a lot. And how old are they now?
They're 4 and 2.
Oh, so they're still pretty young too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're little firecrackers.
Yeah. So tell me what success means to you.
Oh my goodness, it's so different for everyone, and it's so different for me too, depending on the day. Sometimes success for me is just having it being 7:30 at night and my kitchen is clean, the dishes are away, the kids are fed, bathed, and in bed, and I have the evening for myself. That's a huge success. But overall, I think how I would define it is the freedom to decide and take actions that you want to take because you're not restricted by somebody else's time frames. You're not restricted by availability of resources to do something or to go somewhere or experience something. I think that to me is the ultimate freedom, and to have the opportunity to give back, to impact, to serve the greater purpose. I know we all have different levels of our purpose. To me, why, for some time was really wrapped around I just want to support my kids. Then it expanded a little bit. I want to be able to make an impact on community. And the privilege of being interviewed on podcasts like yours is one step towards the direction. Ultimately, what I really want to do is to build a business to allow for hiring full-time moms, women, giving back in that way. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be levels beyond that. But for me, freedom and success, that's the direction I'm going. I couldn't care less about BMWs and McMansions and stuff like that. It's the experiences that you're able to build, not just for yourself, but also for others, the legacy that you're able to leave behind.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I can see that too now is that's the really cool part about being an entrepreneur is we're actually creating jobs. I sat there and thought about it the other day. That is a really cool ripple I never even thought about. And it's really beautiful. Just sit down with that thought for a moment because not everybody has the ability to have a job. And so as your business grows, and most of our listeners are pretty new in business, but as your business grows, you can start to actually support other people with it, which is really cool.
Yes. And, we oftentimes are so focused on those larger business, like multi-million-dollar businesses, that being a solopreneur nearly slips through the cracks. But it's so powerful because just like you mentioned, we're building a network, we're giving work to each other, we're supporting each other in different ways. And I think that's something really powerful to be a part of.
I totally agree. And just because we're a small business doesn't mean that we're not creating really great opportunities for those around us. So tell us kind of what has been one of your biggest successes so far.
Oh my goodness. I think I still have a chip on my shoulder because of that one. I remember when I said how I started my business with the first daughter. I was on somebody else's deadline. I hustled. I worked from the hospital bed. Luckily, it was an easy delivery. When my second was on her way, I knew that I would change things, and I wanted to be able to enjoy and fully recover. And I was determined to give myself 3 months paid maternity leave. For European standards, my friends were telling, 3 months, what? Are you crazy? Why aren't you taking a whole year? I was like, yeah, well, I can technically because it's a different system. I need finances to come in. But here, like 3 months, what are you going to do in 3 months? You're going to get bored. It was a whole different conversation. But I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to build a team to support my clients, have incredible clients who in turn were really understanding. And one of them actually sent me an email. He said, we are fine. Your team is awesome. If you reach out to me, if I hear back before your maternity leave is up, I'm going to fire you. Go have fun, enjoy. I do have clients like this, and I think that was one of the greatest successes, but it really taught me, behind the scenes, it was, yes, built for the selfish reasons, but I learned the whole system of what has to happen and how it has to happen in order to get to the point where you can say, I'm out, I'll see you in 3 months.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, but I think having the courage to do that, because that stems from like, okay, this is not only what I want, but also what I need to be totally fulfilled. And not everybody has that courage to be like, I've already built it. I trust it, right? Like, I trust it.
And, of course, there were some major hiccups. Certain things did not go my way. There were a couple of days when I was pulling my hair out. But overall, I think it was a really neat experience that, again, thankfully, because of the team and because of the ability to give work to others who really are excellent at what they're doing, I was able to work my way out, at least for that period of time.
Yeah, that's really huge. So was there anything like while you were building your business that you wish you knew a little bit sooner that you're willing to share with us today?
Where do I start? Well, the first lesson, I think it takes money to make money. I've always been a believer that you have to invest something. I just never had the idea of how much that something could be. Now, after 5 years and over, tens and tens of thousands of dollars invested, I'm like, oh, okay, fine, I get it, sure. But just starting out, like you mentioned, a lot of your audience is just at the starting point. At some point, when you make a decision, when you decide, are you in, are you out, are you yes, are you no, then you have to be able to see through and follow through that decision, the commitment you're making. So as easy as it might sound to say, what, I don't have money, I can't invest, this is going to be a long uphill battle for you to figure it out on your own. And one of the things that I wish I knew earlier was that what looks simple on the outside is not always easy to put in place on the back end. Mm-hmm. And there are so many gaps and so many leaks and so many different configurations, whether you're a coach, whether you're a consultant, whether you provide services to other entrepreneurs like a VA, online business manager, graphic designer, web designer, whatever you do as a business owner, there's so many cracks that you can fall in because on the outside it seems so easy. That unless you have somebody who understands them, who helps you navigate and won't just give you a copy-paste strategy because it's worked for them, but is going to be able to see, what, your situation, your business, your particular, wherever you are compared to the goals, this is what you need. You'll be wasting much more in terms of resources, time, energy that you would have otherwise if you made a decision, what, I'm going to figure it out how, and I'm making a commitment, I'm going to invest to get that shortcut done for me.
Yeah. So I want to just kind of get it out there, kind of like,
sure,
there's so many ways you can invest. You can invest in Facebook ads. You can invest in a VA. Like you can invest in other types of shortcut, like courses, right? Like where does somebody even start with that? And like you said, you've invested a lot. So like what were kind of your best investments?
That's a fantastic question. I encourage the audience to take out pen and paper. Because here we go. The first part of the question, where do you even start? Well, you have to start with a roadmap. For example, if you imagine taking a road trip from East to West Coast, you want to get from New York to LA. How are you going to get there? Well, you can drive, you can take a train, you can fly, you can take a boat and go all around. There are different ways to get there. What is the best way for you? What's your timeline? What's your budget? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the services you're providing? All of those things are going to determine how you get from A to B. So when you're clear on the final destination, then you start reverse engineering. I usually start with looking into numbers. Because one of the most important things from how I see it, it might sound awesome. Yes, you have 3 hours per day to work and you can work with clients and you charge hourly rate. When you look into the numbers, when you look at your overhead, when you look at other expenses you have, when you look into how much you want to pay yourself, when you look into what you have to invest, not even considering taxes yet, can you make a living out of that?
Mm-hmm.
What is your capacity? When you have those parameters established, now you start playing with, okay, what kind of services can I have? How can I structure them? How can I price my services? How can I position myself? And one of the things, that one of the first people that I hired showed me, it was one of the greatest mindset shifts that I had. Just for full disclosure, I started out as a virtual assistant because I had no idea what else is available out there that could be done virtually online at the time. And I was struggling, $20 an hour. I was like, I'm never going to make a living. I don't have enough time to actually even meet my full-time income based on the work that I provided. I kept getting nickel and dime, then no way. So one of the greatest shifts that allowed me to go from $20 an hour to $20,000 packages was to think through your client's eyes and position yourself as an investment and not an expense.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are putting all those pieces together, yes, Facebook ads are great, but you might not be at that level yet. Yes, hosting your podcast might be a great way to get exposure. You might not be there yet. Mm-hmm. Hosting webinars, awesome. It might work for some. It might not be your strategy. Blogging, you're consistently told, put your content out there, keep blogging, post the articles. Okay, great.
How are people going to see it?
Yeah, and for what purpose? The content, you can produce as much content if you want. It doesn't have any purpose. It's not going to serve you. It's going to drain you. So there are all different things. Gain exposure, be visible, this challenge, other challenge. It's information overload. I think the most important thing for moms, entrepreneurs who are on their journey is to start eliminating. Take what you have, create a map for yourself, create a structure, the framework, and start putting only the components that serve you and support you in it and go from there. Because otherwise you can keep learning. You can go to every possible webinar out there. You can sign up for every possible freebie out there. You're not going to go anywhere. You can sign up for every group program that sounds so awesome when you read the sales page that by the time you get out to the end, it's like, here's my credit card. It's just, oh, so great. I got to have it. You got to have the direction to know where you're going and what you actually need and what's just the noise and the shiny syndrome out there.
Yes.
And last but not least, depending on the stage on your business, different stages require different strategies, require different resources, require different tactics. So you have to be mindful of that as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And that was my biggest error. Like, I heard, okay, I need to do webinars because that's how you reach more people, right? Like, you can pitch to like 30 people on a webinar, right? Like, right out of the gate, I built a huge, I built this webinar and I was ready to go. Not only did I like not sell any, there was like 6 people on the webinar. One was my coach. The other was my VA. And I was just not there yet, right? Like, I was not at the point of like leveraging, like I was still at the one-on-one. And luckily that showed me like, I need to just go back to basics and start selling one-on-one. Let me sell something one-on-one first, and then I can build it. But I love what you said, because everybody's out there talking about their solution being number one, right? Like the Facebook ads is the answer, right? And you might not be there yet.
Exactly. Like you said, not everybody's there yet. And also, yes, webinars are awesome. I'm doing that. I know I have to do them more. And They're a great way to really leverage your time. But there's so much more that goes behind the scenes, that the part when you put the PowerPoint presentation up and you put yourself in front of the audience, that's really just a fraction of everything that goes behind the scenes. But I'd like to encourage the audience, when you're thinking about ways to be supported, understand the difference between a coach, consultant, strategist, and freelancer, which is pretty much people who are focused on that one skill that they can bring to the table and actually get the work done for you. Because each and every one of them is going to support you differently.
Yes. Yeah. Could we go into that a little bit? Because I was just talking about this with one of my clients today.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting because, one of the other things I wish I knew earlier, I have an amazing consultant that's working with me. I've invested tens of thousands into coaching before, but I never felt I quite got it. So it's like, okay, I guess being a consultant myself, I knew the difference, but you can fix somebody else's problems, but not your own. I was like, okay, I need somebody who's going to really help me map it all out, like I was talking earlier. And we had the same discussion because one of the problems that I kept running into after I completely restructured my business is how to niche myself down, because there's so much that I have to offer, and I don't want to sound like, tooting my own horn or something like that. But I just couldn't niche myself down into, okay, this is the one thing that I'm going to be known as. And the way he laid it out, I'm glad that you brought up the question because it really made sense. Like, oh, okay. So if you look into a whole puzzle of every single thing that's involved in getting your business up and running to the next level and to the next level and to the next level, that would be a consultant, a strategist. When you're looking for somebody who is going to be there with you, help you do things, maybe even do things for you, again, that's going to be a consultant or strategist. When you're looking for somebody in a specific niche, like Facebook ads, who's going to tell you how to do them, webinars, who's going to tell you how to do them, whatever it is, those are most likely going to be coaches who are going to be there. They're going to tell you what to do, how to do it. They're going to help you through the mind blocks and stuff like that. But they are not going to get hands-on work for you. And it's probably not going to be on the greater scheme of things. That's on you to figure it out where in your structure that specific thing falls into place. And then we have virtual assistants and virtual business managers. We have graphic designers, we have web designers, and we have copywriters, and the whole arsenal of experts who you say, this is what I need, this is what I need by, this is my budget, this is why I need it, do it for me. And it's pretty much turnkey solution. Does that make sense?
Yes, perfect. And I think coaching is helping you to find your own answers too. Like, yes, we're going to guide you, but it's really about the internal stuff, right? Like, what is it that you want to do and what is it that is right for you? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily like, okay, do X, Y, Z and just go do it.
Exactly. And, sometimes it is a fine line, especially in our industry with solopreneurs and small businesses. Once you get to the level of playing with corporations and larger businesses, yes, it's much different. So the line between consultant and coach can be very blurred. And that's perfectly fine because the consultant that I'm working with, we talk about a whole lot of internal stuff and internal shifts too, but that's not his primary focus. But I'm so glad that you brought it up because yes, another thing that is really important is yes, you need to have the strategy, you need to have the tactics for the business. In the meantime, you have to grow as a person.
Yeah. And that's the hard internal work, really.
It is. And it's interesting that at every single level, they're pretty much the same roadblocks. They affect you differently. They have different consequences, but it's always, the money stories, the worthiness story, the fear factor, we all hit them at different stages.
Yes. Yes, we do. Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about with your 2-year-old and 4-year-old, what are the things you do to stay on top of your game every day?
Oh my goodness. Well, I spend probably way too much time on social media that I probably should, to the point that sometimes even my little one would say, okay, mommy, here's your laptop, here's my notebook, here's this, or the littlest one. Now she learns how to turn on the TV. She just sits on the couch, gets the remote and turns the TV on. I was like, oh, time out. No. So that keeps me on my toes. And it shows me, how I really need to be careful how I spend my time and what kind of model I am for them, because they see everything, they hear everything. What I found really helpful and time efficient is to play videos, following industry leaders like Russ Ruffino, Lindsay Wilson, Jen Scalia, Kimber Luna, Becky Dixon, Gary Vee. Those are the people that I follow. I usually set aside some time in the morning before the kids are up. I learn from them. And then in the evening, I'll be looking at different webinar recordings, learning from my colleagues. Reading books is something that I wish I could say I'm doing, but it's been a while since I actually read something in, one setting or two settings. It gets a couple of paragraphs here and there. So I don't think that counts. And then just staying current with different online publications and news and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you've been on the news. I saw that on your picture. So can you tell us how you kind of started going on there? Like, how did you get some media exposure? Do you have like a PR person or?
That's a great question. The major push started when I co-authored the book Bold with Les Brown, Melissa Krivacek, and I think it was 10 more authors. It was a really fun project. And that was the first time I really got a glimpse into the back scene of producing and publishing and campaigning for a bestseller book. And it was the first time that really we were working with a publisher and a PR person to get us out there. So part of the exposure and accolades comes from there. Another part was, for example, CNN Report and other online mediums. They have a portal for audience to go on, just like Huffington Post. Mm-hmm. You can contribute, you can get an exposure through there, and you can leverage that as well. But I haven't really worked with a publisher or PR person on a private level yet. Happening, It's just not the right time. But I do a lot of podcasts, and I still remember like it was yesterday, the first time that I did in 2014. I was so nervous. I asked for questions in advance. I typed them all up, including the fillers. And I was reading line after line after line because I was so afraid to mess it up or to leave something out. And it just got easier after that. You kind of develop your story, which I think it's a great opportunity if your audience has a chance to go out there and present through podcast. It's a really great story to connect to the audience, to see what their interest is, and also to hone into your storytelling abilities, because people memorize stories, right? And sometimes it's so easy to focus on teaching and lecturing and talking about you, that it took me a while to really start developing that part of, okay, let's turn tables, let me use stories to be more relatable and talk to the audience directly as opposed to just talking about myself. It's still a work in progress. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's compared to what it used to be, it's much better.
Yeah, that's what I love about podcasts. It's like it's so relaxed and just conversational.
And yeah, another part, I'm just actually gearing up to attend a 3-day conference in Baltimore. So that's another way to really get in touch with and stay on top of my game.
Oh, so attending conferences and
different events, workshops. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Was there any struggle or obstacle that you faced while building this business that you've been able to overcome that taught you something really big?
We touched upon it briefly when I was talking about my second daughter being born when I battled postpartum depression. That was actually the first time in my life that I felt out of control. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because prior to that, I was really that fact and data-driven person, action taker. This is the input, this is the output type of person. The greatest lesson that experience taught me was to open up myself to the possibility of exploring my spiritual side, the energy side, the woo side, as some people are calling it. And it's been one of the greatest gifts, because I discovered that, yes, there's that component that's really valuable for my clients, not just for myself, that I've been suppressing for all this time. And it's a great resource to tap into. So I've learned how to bring it up and combine it with that business savviness, so you have intuition, you have the energy part, and then business data fact-based person there. But it was a struggle for a long time because I didn't find myself in, where do I belong? Where do I fit in? After all these years, I think it was also the first time it all happened at once that I really had to take time to grow as a person. For all these years, we're just go, 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 go. Here's the deadline. Here's this, here's that. You have to respond. You have to respond. You have to react. And it was the first time that pretty much everything fell apart and I had to rebuild from the scratch. And it was great, painful, but great learning experience that not only helped me grow, it started the foundation of the business that I have now. And along the way, it really tested my marriage and eventually it strengthened my marriage as well. Because without my husband, I could not have been here.
Wow, that's such a good lesson. And thank you to all the husbands out there. I just want to say that. Because these moments, and you're the first one to bring this up, but it's so true, right? Like the things that are going on for us personally and in our business, because we're a solopreneur, affects everything. And so, taking that acknowledgement that it does strengthen your marriage eventually if you work on it, right? It's not like one day it's hard and the next day you just keep going on, right?
It is a roller coaster. And I know plenty of entrepreneurs whose marriages have fallen apart, for some for better, some for worse. The part I think that really happens is when you marry somebody, you're specific person, and as you grow through the marriage, you either grow together or you grow into opposite directions. And becoming an entrepreneur, I think it accelerates the growth process because you have to really grow up on a personal level. And sometimes the vision that you have, the goals that you have, the possibilities that you're opening yourself to might not even be close to what your partner can envision. Because even with my husband and I, we have conversations and he reacts to same information way differently than I do now. When we're talking about certain numbers, to him, it's like, oh my God. To me, it's like, yeah, okay. Because you see different eyes, you see the possibilities differently. So it definitely is a work in progress. But I know for me, he's been there for me when I did not believe in myself. But also when I flew a little too high, he was really quick to bring me down. Based on the, ground me. Okay, come on, you're flying a little high. Come on.
That's beautiful. Yeah, my husband is also, he's never really been a huge supporter until I started to make money, of course. I think that's probably for most people. Yes. Like nothing you're doing, it takes too much time until you start to make, some more money. And once I had some bigger months, he was like, oh yes, I'm totally supportive of you. And now he's very supportive. But at first sometimes it's difficult for them to see that, right? To see the possibilities like you're talking about.
Yes. And I don't know what you've experienced or what the audience experienced. I think the biggest struggles that we've been through was every single time it was time to invest, because it was nothing tangible, like coaching, consulting, even hiring a VA. It was nothing tangible. It was not me buying a new car that's sitting in a garage that he can actually touch it or see it. But it's investing in your knowledge, in your mindset, in skill set. And it was really difficult decision, talking about writing a check for $5,000-$10,000 at a time, because it was different mindset too. As somebody who has not been an entrepreneur until the money started to come in, like you said, oh, okay, I see it actually works. Good. We're good. We can do that. But it definitely takes time. It's not overnight. And it takes a lot of trust, I think. And also as husbands, they want to, or wives, I want to be sexist. They want to keep us safe, but once you decide I'm going to write a check for $10,000, I'm going to lay it all out. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be pushed out of my comfort zone. I'll be pushed out of over my limits. Who wants to have a wife like this at home who's stressing and crying every single day when she gets off a phone with a coach or consultant? But like I said, when the results are coming in, like, oh, awesome. Great. What else can I support you with? You're awesome. I'm really proud of you. Stuff like that. And it's a real payback. But also the kids, to me, it's always the example we're setting for the kids.
Yeah, those are great lessons. And I'm so happy that you brought that up because like I said, nobody else has talked about the husbands, the poor husbands. But that's a very valid point. Okay, so let's say you had to start all over again. You had no team, no list, no connections, and you just had 3 hours a day and $5,000. What would you do?
I love the question. Well, first, I would hire a kick-ass copywriter to come up with a killer content for a opt-in page. From the opt-in page, I would lead people on a webinar. Because the webinar, despite, where people are, how they feel about it, I find it for me to be a great way to showcase the expertise, serve the audience, build the like, know, and trust factor. Mm-hmm. And from there, you can always lead them on a strategy session. Mm-hmm. Another part of that would go into ads to fill those seats. Mm-hmm. So then as you're recouping the investment, as you're signing people up either into one-on-one, whatever it is, you can compound the revenue and then reinvesting back and back and back and back and start growing and then eventually hire other support. I know it sounds great in theory, but that's what I would do.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, she hired a copywriter, right? And she invested in ads. Now, I want to ask you this. Would you recommend somebody just to start running ads?
Probably with a little smaller budget. Mm-hmm. Even though that's kind of okay, let me backtrack a little bit. There's nothing you can do with $20, $30, $40, $100 budget when it comes to the ads. Mm-hmm. But at least, if you're playing around a little bit and if you have money to invest into the ads, I'll probably find somebody. I guess I would split that $5,000 in 3 ways: copywriter, ads, and somebody who can actually do them. Maybe not at the highest level, but at least the basic level. But if it's not the ads right now, it's so easy with the technology, with the internet, social media. Even if you don't have the list sitting, let's say, in Excel spreadsheet or Aweber or MailChimp or whatever it is that you're using, Entreport, you have connections on Facebook, you have connections on Twitter, you have connections on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Reach out. Mm-hmm. Even if it means 3 hours a day for weeks, you don't do anything else but just sending outreach emails, introductory emails, get people on calls, just to know each other, to be resourced, to connect with them. It's money and time well spent. It might be draining at first, but you get to hone into who your audience is. If you decide, I'm going to go really guerrilla marketing and I'm going to bypass all the ads and stuff like that, I'm just going to go straight out. Go to networking events, go meet people, have people, bring them into your home, create workshops, for those who could be your audience. Offer strategy sessions in exchange for testimonial or conducting a market research or something like that. There's so many resources out there. There's so many different ways out there that even with 3 hours a day, you can do a lot when you decide that you want to do it.
Yes, love that. So you gave us a ton of ideas, right? So like if you're out there and you're like, I want to go the tech route, go do it. Go do it. Go do Facebook ads and run into that. And I'm now, just like I said, I'm doing more webinars now and doing Facebook ads. And when I started, I didn't know my ideal client. So where are you, and figure out where you are. And if you want to go more guerrilla marketing, I love that word. I think that's cool. And do it one-on-one at first, do that, right? Like there's just so many options. And so it all starts with that decision and the commitment to making it happen.
Or third option, not to overwhelm everybody, invest those $5,000 in babysitting. Have somebody come over to buy you additional 3 hours a day. Mm-hmm. Now you have 6. You can do a lot in 6 hours.
Yeah, that's a great option. Nobody's mentioned that. I love that one. Okay, so is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you want to maybe share with a mom entrepreneur who's like just brand new, starting out, that you think would help them right now?
There was a great lesson that I've learned the hard way, and that there's a difference between loving what you do and loving what you have to do until you can do what you love. Because we started out a business with the skill set, with knowledge, with the idea, with a dream of us just doing that one thing we're so good and passionate about. But the fact is that sometimes you have to put it on a side a little bit and focus on, okay, what is it I can actually do that people are going to pay for right now? Even if it's like a cash injection, it doesn't have to be a long-term revenue generating strategy. And you do that. For example, I know people who are great strategists, but they're also copywriters. They might not love writing copy, but it's really lucrative for them. So every once in a while, they make an offer out there. Let's say you're planning for vacation. Okay, how much extra money do I need? $10,000. Okay, how can I make $10,000 on top of what I'm already making? Or $2,000, depending on where you are for whatever it is. And see what else can you bring to the table that is relevant to your audience, that you can still do in your integrity, that you can bring in. So yes, there's a difference between a core offer and cash injections, and you do need both in your business.
That's a great lesson. Thank you. Okay, so where can people find out more about you and get in touch with you?
The best way where you can find more about me, additional resources and freebies, checklists, video trainings that expand onto what we already touched upon, go to www.saraspeicher.com. I know it's going to be in the notes because it's quite complicated. I didn't think that one out. And then you can go on the resources page or book a free strategy session with me, and we can talk in details about what your specific business is, where the goals are, and I can help you identify where you might be leaving money on the table without even knowing.
Love that. Thank you so much. I can't wait to share this episode with everybody, and thanks for coming on.
Mariana, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast. And in the next episode, I'm going to be interviewing one of my former clients, Jean Thompson. I'm so excited to share this episode with you because we talk about something that I don't think enough people talk about in business, and it's how to avoid all of the shining objects that are coming around us. And it's really about listening to yourself. And so we're going to be talking about how Jean started to implement this in her business and what kind of results that she started to get because of that. Of course, her lessons, what she wished she knew, and what she would do if she had to start all over again. So be sure to subscribe so that you get all of the details on the upcoming episodes. And for the show notes for this episode and for all other episodes, of course, you can go to marianacruiz.com. Then just enter the season and episode number that you're looking for. For this specific episode that we're doing today with Sara Speicher, it's marianacruiz.com, S2E05. You've been listening to the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. By reviewing the show, it allows us to reach more moms to help them grow their businesses. So head on over there, leave us an honest rating, and I can't wait to catch up with you there. By the way, every single week, I'm going to select one winner who leaves a review, and you'll be able to get a free strategy session with me. In this 20-minute laser-focused session, you'll get the information that you need to move your business to the next level of success that you desire. Have an awesome day.